Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Denise Judd, and I'm a full-stack Java developer. And I really appreciate all of you coming and staying and listening to all of us, because we have really worked hard on this. Now this isn't working. So I'll start like everyone else and tell you a little bit about me. This is my family. Up in this picture here is 4 generations, including my grandmother, the little short one there, kind of in the middle. She's still around, and she's 98 years old.
Wow.
And we have a very close family, pretty small but close. The things that I like to do a lot of things outside. I love doing rowing out at Creve Coeur, some rock climbing. This was a 100-mile bike ride that I did for lymphoma and leukemia. And I started out in pain after 22 miles was our first time, but after 2 months of training and increasing, I actually made the finish line, and that was me on a unicycle. I used to do my unicycle to school every day when I was young. Some other things that I love to do are, besides writing code, which I love, I also enjoy writing. I've done some short stories that I've gotten published and gotten an award for, as well as I'm working on my first fictional novel about a girl that has experienced some traumatic events in her life and goes on a 30-day mountaineering backpacking adventure to try to get a handle on things. So, also, what keeps me really busy is this young Australian Shepherd that I adopted from the shelter. I wasn't clear how much energy they actually had, but to this day, every time I'm home, we have to play frisbee, we have to do agility, we have to do something. He's just always going. One of my favorite places to go is the Outer Banks, North Carolina. I grew up in Virginia, so this was only 3 hours away from me. So rain or shine, sun, darkness, doesn't really matter. That's the place that I go every year to take time out and relax. See when you like that? Also, this picture you see in the background, that's a picture I took at the Outer Banks when the water went back out. It's in kind of like shaped like hearts. And so my application today is called Connect Our Hearts, so that's why I chose that as my background. One of the last things that I'll talk about is that I love to do is being of service. These pictures I took in Ethiopia. We went over there to help out with some of the orphans, with toys, with school supplies, with medical equipment and things like that. We went to Ghana and several other places. So my education, I got a bachelor's in information systems years ago at Virginia Commonwealth University. I've also got 2 masters in education and divinity. The youth ministry is a very passionate thing that I enjoy doing and working with kids a lot. And then now I'm at Claim Academy. So I've done a little bit of everything. I actually started my career off as a programmer and analyst in COBOL, which most people, they're hard to find these days, but it has been a while since I've done that. Also something called Cognos Powerhouse. I went on to be a systems analyst, a field support analyst, network admin, systems admin, all of these, little IT words that you hear. And then I found myself talking to people that really were in the IT field and did a lot of software development. It seems like, this big data thing is a big deal, so it was like I really got intrigued with it and thought, maybe I would try going back in, learning more about that. And it really excited me. It just so happened I started doing a little bit of independent learning on my own. And then one night I turned the TV on and saw Ola on there talking about Claim Academy and the Facebook scholarship. And it was just the timing, because it wasn't normally a show that I would watch. But when I turned it on, there he was. And I was so excited that I ran down here and got the information, and I did all the pre-work, and like within a day or 2, just so that I could be involved, because it was starting within the next week. So one of when I started thinking about one of the things that's passionate for me, it's being of service. However, like we have natural disasters, all types of them. Sometimes we only think about the ones that are closest to us, like maybe tornadoes here. Being from the East Coast, hurricanes was always a big deal. And then as I was researching for this project, you know, California has fires every year that are just pretty horrible. And these natural disasters, just last year alone, it was $16 billion in costs. And most of the time, if someone is even insured, it only covers about a third of the cost, and it takes years to rebuild. Katrina in 2005, they're still rebuilding. It's been more than 10 years, and they still have a ways to go. So, you know, but it's not just about the money. What I was thinking about is how can we help expedite this, you know, recovery process. And in my research, I found an article even that said, you know, that they wish they had some central repository that had all the information so that people could go to it. Last year at Hurricane Harvey, my mom called me up because she watches the pit bull and parolees thing. And when that hit and all of those animals, she was so worried about them that she wanted me to give her the directions from Virginia all the way to Texas so that she could go down there and help. And I'm like, well, Mom, you can't even go 2 hours in a car, much less 17. But so I said, let me call. And so I called and I called and I called, and you know, you get messages, you try to go to their site, you can't really see what's going on or how you can help. I finally did have somebody call me back a few days later, and she said they get so overwhelmed, you know, people just show up there and then they don't even have places to stay, you know, people show up to try to help. So this is kind of how I came up with this idea. Imagining if this happened to you or somebody that you loved. You know, if you had a way or knew of a way that you could help, how many here would actually try to do some kind of help? Mm-hmm. Whether it's cleaning up, whether you have carpentry skills, or whether it's, you know, helping rehome or just transport animals. Everybody, you know, most of us would try to help in some way. So, my application is called Connect Our Hearts. So this actually has a way for people to learn more about what's going on, and they're able to sign up. This is kind of for some of the disaster recovery programs or even just small communities. They're able to sign on here and create events and what their needs are so that volunteers can come in here and see what's close to them or in what way they can help, and then they can sign up for those things. There's also included natural disaster training. There's a lot of people that really have no idea. Sometimes these things hit somewhere where, you know, that doesn't usually happen, and so they need to know these things. So one of the things that you can see here is a weather map that's actually like a radar map. Maybe I'll come back to that one because it takes a minute to load. Let's see. There it is. So if somebody actually wanted to see what was going on, I guess the animation, here we go. We'll start here. It basically shows you the actual weather that's going on right now. If you wanted to check on areas where family and friends are. You can come in here and register if you want to participate. Once you register, it actually takes you to the login. And from there, it takes you to a dynamic page that shows you all of the events that are going on. So here we have an event out of St. Louis for rehoming abandoned dogs. We have an event that's in the Outer Banks from a hurricane. Here's helping board up homes before a hurricane in like the Virginia Beach, I think that one is, and here's Key West. And then down here you have a Google API map that shows you these different locations, the events that are in here, and if you click on one it tells you where it is. It's always slower when you get up to this thing. So this one's Outer Banks. This one is the Virginia Beach one. And you can move this map around and you can see down here there's also the Key West one. So if I actually log in as an admin, it takes you to a page where you can add an event. So let's just call it St. Louis tornado. Say clean up debris. We'll make Byron the contact. Whoops. Byron. And I kind of left some of this information in here just as testing purposes so that I could. And let's say it's going to take about 45 people. So I add that event and then I allow it to stay here if there's multiple events that need to be added. But if you wanted to check, you can go back to opportunities, scroll down, and it'll show you the event that I just put in here, the St. Louis tornado cleanup debris. So my main goal is really to expedite some of this disaster recovery, as well as just come together as a community to help one another. Because if it takes years sometimes for people that don't have homes, you know, and they have nowhere to go. So this is a way that we can kind of all come together and contribute and figure out how to expedite this process and kind of manage it all in one place for people to go, whether they need help or whether they need or want to volunteer and help in some way. So the technologies I used was CSS, HTML, JavaScript, JSP, JSTL. Some of these are the views, the things on the front end. Apache Maven for the dependency, Spring and Hibernate for the framework, and Tomcat for the server. Bootstrap again also to make it pretty, you know, the slides, that's always the fun thing that Bootstrap does. MySQL for the database. I also used, oh, I forgot to show you, when you sign up, there is a text message when you sign up for an event. I'm not going to go back because we're running late. So, but if you sign up for the event, the person gets a text message that says thank you for and confirming that they've signed up for a particular event. I also used GoogleMaps APIs. So some future enhancements, I'd like to also break it down for resources needed. Like for example, if somebody has carpentry skills, you know, that would be a way that they could search the events and see which one actually needs those skills. Be able to search by the categories. Distribute it out into communities to whether it's a small organization or a larger organization, and also expand this to include other countries, because the data that I used here was mainly just for our country. So once again, I'm Denise Judd, and this is my contact information, and I really appreciate you taking the time to be here for our Capstone projects.
Thank